G'day.
G'day, Sammy.
How are you?
Doing very well, mate. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
And welcome back to everyone for our Aureus Financial Podcast.
We're getting stuck straight into it. 2nd of January. Hit the ground running.
We don't muck around. We don't muck around at all. How was your New Year's, mate?
Mate, it was good. It was quiet this year. We stayed at home with the family. My sister-in-law, she's got little triplets there. They're 6 months old, so we were hanging around, playing with them. They crashed out. We sat around. It was good. It was actually really nice.
They didn't make the 12 o'clock fireworks, mate?
Mate, they didn't. They didn't make it 10. They had a bit of a wake-up, had a bit of milk, and straight back to nap time.
Straight back to it, mate. It seemed to be a common theme this year that everyone was kind of taking it easy. So, It's interesting.
Why do you think that is?
I think it was a hectic year for everyone, mate. I think 2017 for a lot of people was tiring. It was exhausting. I know for myself there's lots of ups and downs. So, it was good just to have some time just to relax and not really have to worry too much about going out or going overseas or doing anything too crazy. Just having some time to chill out and do nothing.
Yeah, and I think everyone took advantage of that. You know, there was the general theme this year. I found, and no one was really doing a lot. Everyone was sort of, going to the park, to walk to the beach, or going to a restaurant for dinner, and then going back home. No one was doing anything crazy. No big parties or big getaways or anything like that.
It's interesting, isn't it, mate? I think it speaks a lot for, I guess, people's journey over the past 12 months. It speaks a lot for my journey. There's been some pretty monumentous, achievements and milestones, and a couple of setbacks over the past 12 months. So it's good to have some time to reflect and get ready for a big 2018.
I think you need it, mate. I think you need a breather before the year starts.
That it gets to that point where you start itching to get stuck back into it.
We get bored, mate. We get bored.
After a couple of days off, I'm losing my mind. I don't know what to do with myself. So, mate, a bit of an agenda for today. I guess, given the time of year, it's probably a good idea to talk about some goals and talk about, some of the common themes. I know you recently wrote a blog about New Year's resolutions. Yeah,
I did, mate. So I don't like the idea of a New Year's resolution in its typical form. I love the idea of goal setting and wanting to achieve. But you're sitting there with your friends or your family, you're half a dozen beers down, you go, I'm going to do this next year. You're not going to do that. No. You're not going to do that. So I wrote a blog and I spoke a little bit about, dismissing that idea of the New Year's resolution that essentially for 9 out of 10 people, it'll fail. And I set out an actual structure that people can put in place to actually achieve goals if they seriously want to achieve them. If that makes sense.
Yeah, look, I think it's funny, and I think it's not just for New Year's resolutions; it's for goals in general. I think that people far too often dream, and they don't do what is required to turn their dreams into goals.
Yeah.
And I think for most, the idea of a New Year's resolution is just a dream. It's normally around fitness, or around not drinking or partying so much, or doing more with your life. And you're right, it's normally after a few quiet ales, and far too often they fall short. And I think I was guilty of that myself. I guess I'd have New Year's resolutions with the best intentions, and then something rolls around and it's just not sustainable. Something manages to get in the way. And I think the most significant New Year's resolution was actually 2 years ago, where I decided to stop drinking.
And you've stuck to that, mate.
I have, yeah. Well, the plan was just for a year. And then after probably 6 months of not drinking, I ultimately decided I'm going to keep with it. So it's 2 years now.
Much to my pestering you to sit down and have a beer,
you've tried, mate.
You've strongly said, sorry, mate, we're not going to have a beer today.
The non-alcoholic ginger beer is where it's at, mate. I can still hang with the best of them. But I've kind of challenged myself and reflected back on what was the difference between, I guess, all of the previous years and I guess everyone else's New Year's resolutions, and I guess what's the difference between me being able to achieve that goal and I guess compared to others falling short.
What do you think it was?
It's all about the motivating factor. It's about the motivating force. Is the driving force big enough to make you stick the path? And it comes back to something I refer to a lot about deferring gratification. Right, so I guess there's a constant balance of I guess the cost versus the benefit, right? And for most, let's say for argument's sake, for anyone saying they're going to stop drinking, for most they fall short, right? They might go a couple of weeks, a couple of months, but they ultimately fall off the wagon. And it comes down to, are they willing to continue to defer that gratification of going out and having a few beers with the boys for, I guess, the long-term benefits of having a clear mindset, of being able to be at 100% all of the time, but not being hungover and being unproductive, or all of these things. And it's what driving force is bigger. I think for me, the biggest deciding factor for me to stop drinking was the effect that it had on my mindset. And further to that, I didn't like who I was when I drank. I was really obnoxious, and I wasn't a very nice person when I drank. And it took me a while to come to terms with the fact that was actually the case. And also the motivating factor that I wanted to be at 100% because I wanted to perform in my business, and I wanted to be able to be at 100% for my clients and for my team. And those things, given that I was living those things every single day when I was in the office, working with my team, working with my clients, and I could see the payoff for my deferred gratification, it allowed me to stick the path.
Yeah, man, and I saw it with my own two eyes. We've worked together for years, and I could see, once the drinking stopped, the surge in energy you had, and it continued, and it just kept going and kept going, and you're essentially bouncing off the walls every day now, but you get a lot done. Yeah. You get a lot done. So it was a win. That's a win. That's having a New Year's resolution. I hate the word. That's having a goal at the start of the new year and achieving it.
But I think that the interesting part of it was that I was able to derive benefit on a daily basis as a result of my actions. So if let's say I had a different motivating force, and I tried to stop drinking in the past. Let's say I tried to do dry July, something like that, right? And because you're just doing it for more or less, I guess an aimless goal, it's just you're giving up for the sake of giving up. All you have is sacrifice.
There's no benefit.
Yeah. So the only benefit is that you get to the end of the month and you say, oh yeah, I didn't drink for a month, let's go and get pissed. Right? So because of that, the motivating force didn't allow me to reap a return for my efforts. Most people fall short. And I think that's the biggest issue with a lot of people who do goal setting or dream, that they don't take the time to reap the rewards of their hard work and efforts. Because there's only so far you can defer gratification. It's funny, something that I wrote about in my book was the marshmallow experiment. And
that was the best.
It's phenomenal, right? And for those of you who haven't heard of the marshmallow experiment, read my book. But essentially, the whole idea of the marshmallow experiment was that this scientist got these kids, 4 or 5-year-old kids, and sat them down in a room and basically gave them a marshmallow and said, okay, if you can sit here for 15 minutes without eating that marshmallow, I'll come back and I'll give you 2. And the idea was you can eat the marshmallow, but that's all you're going to get. So he filmed the experience, left them in a room by themselves with 0 stimulation. And 2 out of 3 kids ate the marshmallow, whether it be at 1 minute, 5 minutes, 14 minutes. Somewhere along the line, they ate the marshmallow. And the kids that were able to put their mind on other things, and could visualize the rewards of waiting the 15 minutes, which for a 4 or 5-year-old
kid, with a marshmallow in front of them.
Imagine that. It's like an eternity. So those kids that could visualize the outcome of their sacrifice and could really understand the value of waiting, they were able to stick the course. And it's one of those things that those people who aren't able to visualize the outcome will generally always fall short of their goals.
Yeah, mate, it's a very important point that you make, and the blog that I wrote the other day, and that was actually my step number 1, is to actually have something that you want to achieve, articulate it. What is it that you want? You know, you want to get healthier. Okay, Why do you want to get healthier? How are you going to get it? Break it down. Really get to the core of the emotions that are driving this decision. Because as you said, if you don't have some core motivating belief, it's going to fall by the wayside. It's going to fall by the wayside very quickly. Why do you think people don't think about it that much? Why do you think they have not material decisions, but decisions that are very surface?
Yeah, I think that's hitting the nail on the head, mate. People live from one surface encounter to the next. Their life exists at the superficial level, and it's because they haven't been able to train their mindset and train their ability to stick the course, to give them the maximum probability of achieving the things they say they're going to do. Like people, it's like going to the gym. And I use this analogy a lot. Think about, you've never been to the gym in your life, and you go buy a gym membership, and you go in and you go to the bench press or the deadlift or squat rack, right? Let's use a squat rack, right? And you go and chuck 200 kilos of plates onto a bar and you go to squat it. How do you think that's going to go?
It's not going to end well.
It's not going to end well, mate. Like, if you don't understand the technique, you haven't done the training, you don't know the form, you haven't put in the hard work to get yourself up to that point, you're more than likely going to injure yourself. So it's the same thing with goals. People overlook the fact that they need to train their mindset. It's a muscle. And your mind is a muscle. And your ability to defer gratification requires training.
Man, I think a lot of it comes down to discipline as well.
Yeah, well, discipline needs to be trained too. Like, there's some people out there, and this goes with anything in life. There's people out there in the world that are naturally better at certain things than others. They have certain skills or characteristics or behavioural traits.
Natural affinity.
Yeah, they set themselves up where they're going to be, from the get-go, stronger in certain areas than others.
Yeah.
For myself personally, my discipline when I was younger was terrible. And it was something that I inherited from my old man. My old man always started things, never finished them. And he was always a big dreamer, had multi-million-dollar ideas. His ideas were phenomenal, but he lacked the ability to execute on his vision. And there's a good idea born every second, you know. But what sets people apart from the rest is their ability to execute on their ideas or stick the path in pursuit of what they want. So it took me a long time to come to terms with, firstly, the fact that I wasn't very dedicated, and I didn't have the skill sets and characteristics in my personality to make me good at that. So then I had to train myself to be good at that. And look, there's still certain things, like with my jiu-jitsu as an example, I get really serious with it for a while, and then I fall off the wagon, and I make excuses for myself not to go. And what I've found is that where I've got a goal to work towards, for example, I force myself to book in a competition, or I've got a milestone that I'm pursuing, it motivates me to follow the right path to ensure that I'm good on the day so I can perform at my best.
Is that because you're working towards something?
Exactly right. There's a destination. It's kind of one of those things that if you don't know where you're going, how do you know which path you're supposed to take?
Correct.
So a lot of these goals that people have, we'll call them dreams to distinguish the difference. The dreams that people have are superficial. They've only just scraped the surface. They don't understand what the goal entails. They haven't been able to visualize the goal with complete clarity. And most importantly, they don't understand their why.
They just haven't given it any thought. They really haven't sat there and spent the time. That are essentially, the big problem is that they couldn't sit there in a room on their own with their mind for an hour. They'd go insane. Yeah.
You've got to find how you hold yourself accountable. So for myself personally, I need to voice things out there. I need to put things out into the world and tell other people to hold myself accountable to doing things. So if I want to ensure that I do something, I tell as many people about it as I possibly can, which is contrary to what my old man always told me.
Which is the exact opposite of what my old man told me. I never tell anyone what I'm doing. I just do it. I don't tell no one anything.
My old man always used to say, he goes, don't tell anyone
don't be a gunner. Don't be a gunner.
Because people are going to hex you and they're going to wish bad on you and you're not going to get what you want because everyone's going to be thinking bad about you. And for a long time, I trusted what he said. And then I come to a point where I go, no, that's not how I get things done. Like, we had a conversation recently, yesterday actually, and I put it out there. I've always had this goal that I wanted to fight in amateur MMA.
Yeah.
And there's always been a reason that I haven't done it. And in my martial arts academy, one of the guys put up, there's a competition coming up in March. And I thought about it and I go, my striking is terrible. Okay, well, I haven't trained it. I've got 3 months. No, I can't do it. Oh, well, it's in Melbourne. No, I don't want to have to go to Melbourne. There's all of these excuses that kept coming out. So first thing I did is I go, okay, I need to tell Sam. I'll tell Sam. Now I'm telling all of you. So now I'm going to get off my ass and go book a competition, learn how to strike and go there and punch on. Hopefully try and...
You've got to go to training then. You can't not train for the next 3 months and go down there.
No, I can't.
It won't end well if you do that.
No, someone's going to punch me in the head. And it's not going to end well. So... look, it's one of those things that I find it best to put out there in the world. And once I do, I hold me accountable to doing it. So mate, for the time that I've known you, you're a very goals-oriented person.
Always have been.
Where did that come from?
I have no idea. Always since I was a little kid, I had really big goals, really big ambitions, and one of the things that I guess for lucky for, I have always been disciplined. You know what I mean? And I've always stuck to things, and I've always, you know, if I need to do something repetitively over and over and over and over again to achieve whatever result it is, I'll do that. I don't know where the character traits come from. I'm assuming growing up, my childhood, I must have picked it up from someone in my family or something like that. But yeah, I've always done a pretty good job of expecting something of myself and then continuing to work until it's been achieved. Yeah.
So talk me through the process. What's your process for goal setting? How often do you do it? What do you do? How do you hold yourself accountable?
Look, so it's changed over the years, right? When you're younger, when you're a kid, it was essentially winging it, right? You'd have a big idea. I wouldn't even write it down. You'd have a goal or something like that. It'd be stuck in your head, and you just work and act your way towards whatever that goal it was. As you get older and life gets busier and you've got more and more goals, I've found myself essentially systemizing the way that I achieve things. These days, I sit down on my own like a guru in my room. I spin out. I just sit there and think. You were making fun of me before this podcast started because I blocked out a time in my diary on Saturday to sit there and think. So Jackson was having a laugh at me. But I like that. It pays off. When I can sit there and spend a couple of hours on my own with my own thoughts, I can work out what I want to do and essentially how I'm going to do it. Once I've got that down pat, I'll write it all down. Right, so I don't keep anything in my mind anymore. I put everything used to be on paper. Now everything's on the laptop. Write down, you know, what it is I want to achieve, why I want to achieve it, how I'm going to feel once it's achieved, how I'm going to feel on the way, and all the details and all the steps that I need to take to get there. And then from there, I'll set that out for the next 12 months. Right, so I've done that on New Year's morning. I got up early and I've done that for the year. I'll break that down into monthly goals. I'll revisit that on the first of every month. Doesn't always have to be on the first. Whenever I get a couple of hours to sit down and revisit it, and then I'll break that down again into weekly and daily tasks that have to be done in order to reach the bigger goal. Essentially breaking down, you know, a huge wall, one brick by one brick. If you look at it and try climbing the mountain, you're going to go, this is too hard. If you do it one step at a time, eventually you'll get there. And once that's done and all the theoretical work's done, the biggest thing is taking action, right? Is just head down like a pit bull and just getting stuck straight into whatever it is. When I was a kid, I wanted to buy property, all right? I left school, essentially failed year 10. I did no good at school. I started working in the smash repair industry, and I had a boss of mine who had done really well and he made a lot of money out of property, and I said to myself, when I'm 18, when I'm the legal age, I'm going to buy a property. So that was my one big goal. It was 3 years in the future. I was 15 years old. It was a monumental task.
Yeah, who thinks of that?
Who thinks of that? So I thought, all right, step 1, I need to take action. I don't know anything about it. I need to go and buy some magazines. So I went to the newspaper store, bought as many property magazines as I could, worked out that I needed heaps of cash. And I was like, oh shit, I need a lot of money here. So I thought, okay, I'm working. I'll work harder. I'll work more hours. I'll get better at what I'm doing, so I get paid more. I'll work overtime. I'll do jobs on the weekends. I'll do essentially whatever it takes. And got to 18, had the deposit, and bought the property. So that was a real dogged way of doing it. So the planning all happened at the start, and it took 3 years of action to fulfill it. And that's what it takes sometimes.
So I guess if you put anybody else in that situation, they'd probably fall short, right? Like any goal that's 3 years in the future, most people, it's too far away to think about.
Correct.
So what do you think is the key difference between you being able to stick that path and I guess be willing to continue to do what it takes to get to that goal, and I guess most other people?
Well, I had a deep emotional attachment to the goal. So my parents were really young when I was born. They were 15, right? So growing up, we didn't have a lot of cash, right? We didn't have a lot of money. So when I think I was 8 years old, I decided that when I grow up, I am going to have a lot of money. I'm going to have the opposite. I'm going to have more money than I need. And that thing of buying that first property was me proving to myself that I'm going to have more money than I need when I'm older. Okay. So while some people would have done it for the investment purposes, or some people would have done it because all the woke parents tell their woke children to buy properties, I didn't have any of that. I didn't have any outside influence. I didn't have any superficial thoughts behind it. That was a real deep-seated emotional childhood thing that thought, nah, I'm going to get this. And that was the driving factor. That's why you would not expect any other kid to go do that. Like I wouldn't expect any of my children to do essentially what I'd done, because there's no way that they'll have that one event that triggered it, when they were 8 years old to get them to go do it. And I think everyone's got some sort of deep emotional attachment to something. And I think the whole idea of it is to find those things that really get you going. Tie your goals to those things, If the average person watching this, maybe their goal isn't to build a property portfolio of 100 properties or 1,000 properties. Maybe it means nothing to them, but they would have something that means something to them. Yeah. Chase that. Your goals are so much easier because you're intrinsically motivated to do them.
And there's a science around it, mate. I guess I've done a lot of research into NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, right? And it's about understanding the behavioural patterning that drives decisions and drives, I guess the emotional roadblocks that we place on ourselves. And it comes back to, there was a very famous author and speaker called Simon Sinek, and he did a video about understanding your why, or everything starting with why. And I advocate reading his books if you haven't heard of him, or watching his video about why on YouTube. And basically, our brain is evolved at different times. So we have basically the core of our brain, which is our lizard brain, which is kind of our basic instincts and our kind of fight and flight mechanisms, the things that keep us alive, make us keep breathing, all those things.
Caveman,
right?
Yeah.
Then we've got the next part, which is our limbic system, which controls all of our emotions and feelings. And then the thing that makes us human and makes us so intelligent is our neocortex, or our thinking brain, our logical brain. And because all of these things evolved at a different time, our ability to convert logic and I guess our speech and how we articulate ourselves into emotions and vice versa is very, very difficult. So it's like, for example, where you have a gut feeling about something and you just go, oh, this just doesn't feel right.
You can't explain it.
You can't explain it. You can't put words around it. It's because your limbic system is evoking those emotions in you, but it has no way of communicating effectively with your neocortex or your thinking logical brain. So this is, I guess, one of the scientific reasons why people are really, really poor in setting and achieving goals. It's because that superficial level, we're always thinkers. We're only acting based on from one thought to the next. It's a thought that, okay, I'm going to quit drinking, I'm going to quit smoking, I'm going to lose 10 kilos, I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week for the rest of the year. And we don't take the time to try and translate that logical thought into our emotions. And similar to what you said, you had a deep-seated belief. And your belief system is what drove you to convert that into logic for you to go buy a property. Mm-hmm. And it's like, not to get all political here, but when we're talking about, say, religion, right? Like people are so passionate about religion because it's something they believe in. Yeah. And people get really arced up about you challenging their beliefs. And it's because of that same thing. It's so deep-seated, deeply ingrained in ourselves that we cannot find a logical way to defend ourselves without acting in emotion. So it can work both ways. So I think it's very important to try our best just to stop, take a step back, and reflect on why is the goal important and what is that driving force, like you said. That emotion, that raw feeling, that belief that is driving our why.
Mate, you've done a lot of research into this, right? You've spent a lot of time. Essentially, our entire business model was built on this. Why you want to achieve this. How do you think? Because you can see the issues that creep up when you've got different parts of the brain that are thinking at different speeds and in different manners. How can people streamline? How can they take advantage of the way it works? Do you know what I mean? Of the way your brain functions.
It's all about the competency scale, right? And most people operating unconsciously incompetent around their ability to modify their behaviours and I guess the things that make us human to be able to achieve the optimum outcome for ourselves and for our family and ultimately to leave a legacy. So the first thing that needs to happen is that you need to admit the fact and become consciously incompetent. That you are now aware that you have something missing. There's a gap.
Like shortcomings?
Yeah, there's shortomings. And we always have shortcomings.
Everybody.
Like thinking about it now, I just realised that I'm not a very good runner. I'm never going to be able to be Usain Bolt, right? But I haven't thought about that very long. Right? I just thought about that then. So I've just gone from unconsciously incompetent to consciously incompetent. Now, am I going to do anything about it? No, I hate running. So, but if I come to terms with the fact, like I did previously, that I was making superficially dreaming, and I was acting in that logical brain of just putting crap out into the world that I wasn't really committed to achieving, then I needed to come to terms with that fact. So once we come to terms with the fact, it's about saying, okay, well, how do I then become consciously competent, meaning that I have to play an active role in being competent, and then continue to train those behaviours over a long enough amount of time so I become unconsciously competent, that it just happens without thinking.
And they're your leaders in the world. They're your people that are top tier or whatever they do.
Watch anyone, any leading entrepreneur in the world, that they've gone from accepting the fact that enough is enough. And one of the common traits for a lot of really successful people is that they've come from the bottom, they've come from the pits. Look at Sylvester Stallone and Rocky. The bloke was living on the streets. He had to sell his dog. He had $100 in the bank. And he was trying to sell this script for Rocky, but he wanted to play the lead role. And people wanted to buy the script, but they're like, no, you're a mom. You can't even speak properly. You sound like you've got something wrong with you. We're not going to put you in the role. And he just persevered. And it was that perseverance that led him to ultimately reaching his destination, becoming immensely successful, buying his dog back for 10 grand. I think he sold it for $100 or $200. He bought it back for 10 grand.
That guy's an investing genius. The guy who bought it and sold it back.
The dog was speculating on dogs.
Worse than Bitcoin.
Exactly. So it's the common theme for a lot of these really successful people is their ability to dream things into existence. And I found it myself that you start small. It might be something really small, like waking up at a certain time every morning and not hitting the snooze button 50 times. Going to the gym at the same time twice a week. Eating dinner at a certain time. You take the time to set a goal, as small as it may be. It may be really, really insignificant, but you're starting to train your mind to do what you say. And you get to this point where you can say, okay, I'm going to be a rich lister by the time I'm 40, as long as it's a somewhat a realistic goal, and obviously there's variables involved. But by saying it and putting it out there, you're already setting yourself up for success. You're already setting yourself on the right trajectory to grow to what that goal is. And it's why you could probably go and make a bet with any of these really successful people, and if they say they're going to do something, they will do it.
That's what makes them successful, essentially, to being able to take action, realising what you want, and then being able to take action to get it. And that's, most people fall down on both of those things.
And it's so simple. It's scarily simple. But the issue is that most people are looking for sexy solutions to age-old problems. You don't need to do anything sexy. Stick to the basics. Like, how many people contact us and try and ask about sophisticated investment strategies and cryptocurrency and all of these things because they're looking for a sexy solution to an age-old problem. You're shit poor. Just go do the basics.
Sort the fundamentals out. And as you need to earn your way there. These guys that are doing more advanced strategies with wealth creation. Some people do it. Some of our clients do it. But it's not the entry level. No. You need to earn your way to doing the development sites and to starting the businesses and all those sorts of things. That's not something you do when when you're just making your budget every month. Where that's you need to align your goals to the real world.
Correct.
And you need to do them in order. And it's not just saying that you can't get to the big goals, but you've got to start small. If you're struggling to save, I don't know, $500 a month, then you can't go to some seminar and have some guru teach you how to make $1 million a year flipping carrots, or I don't know what some of these guys teach these days. But you need to earn your way to success.
It's really funny, mate. Look, it's another thing that I wrote about in my book, where I was about 19 or 20, and similar story to you. My parents were never very successful. They were never wealthy, always struggled with paycheck to paycheck, always in hot water financially. So I made a decision pretty early that I was going to break the mold and I was going to be successful. So I started trying to act in a way where I would set myself up to be successful. So my idea was that I wanted to be the youngest person in my family that bought a property. So I went to home shows and I went to all these things and immersed myself in property and everything to do with property. And I went to this home show and there was this stand and they were giving away these show bags. It was like a property investment show bag, and then there was a DVD. And it was for this company that was teaching people how to develop property and basically make money without any cash from property. So I watched the DVD, and this DVD was phenomenal. Like, it was produced perfectly, the pitch was perfect, everything was perfect. And as a naive 20-year-old kid, I believed it. And at the time, I had money in the bank for a deposit. And I was looking for properties at the time. But after watching this DVD, I remember I was sitting in my room when my mum was out doing something, and I remember yelling out to my mum and I said, "Oh, Mum, I found what I need to do. This is what I need to do.
This is it.
This is it. So I'm not buying this property. I'm going to go to this seminar and I'm going to go hear what this woman has to say." So I remember going to a seminar in the city. The hall was packed. 200 or 300 people in
there. They charge you for access to the seminar? Free seminar?
Free. So I went to the seminar, sat down, and everyone was looking around. Everyone was in a trance. And this woman came out. And the thing that kind of was the first alarm bell is that every single word was verbatim what she said on the DVD. So I'm like, wow, this is weird. Like, she's rehearsed this. It didn't seem real. It was just it was an act. And I was suspicious straight away because everything verbatim was the same as the DVD. I'm like, why are we even here? Anyway, so at the end she did a pitch and basically said, for tonight only, I'm giving this course to learn about property development and this and that, away for this price. And it was expensive. It was like 30 to 35 grand.
For the course. So not actually to develop any property, no, 35 grand for her course. Yeah, okay.
And I think there was coaching and stuff involved. But anyway, so people just run to the back of the room. Because she made there was only 100 seats or something like that to get it into.
Pushing each other out of the way.
Seriously, it was crazy. It was crazy. I got out of there and I'm like, no, this seems weird. So I was pondering on it and I remember speaking to my dad about it and I go, Dad, look, I'm at a crossroads. I don't know whether just to go buy this property or whether to do this course because this thing's going to be crazy. The potential returns are huge.
Would that money have taken up a substantial chunk of your deposit to do the course? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, pretty much all.
So it's a substantial amount.
It's a substantial amount. It was basically buy a property or buy this course.
Yeah, okay.
So I got to a decision. I go, look, I'm going to send this woman an email, right? And if she can come back to me, I'm going to tell her my situation. And if she can tell me basically to my face that I should buy the course, I'm going to buy it. So I basically put my fate in her hands. So I put together this email and basically like this. This is my situation. I'm really drawn between buying my first property or buying a course. And funnily enough, in her seminar, she spoke about, you can go buy property, you'll do fine, but by doing what I do, you'll do 10 times better. Anyway, so I sent the email, hit send, and then the rest was kind of up to fate. I never got a response.
Yeah.
And I forgot all about it. I went on, did my thing, and years later, I remember watching on the news, and the woman was charged for fraud.
She was a crook.
She was a crook. She got dismissed where she'd never be a director of a company again. She got fined, I don't know how much, nearly went to jail. Just a massive crook and lost hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars for people who did her course. And it's one of those things that you look for sexy solutions. You don't need it. It's just that people need to understand that you take the least amount of risk in order to achieve the outcomes that are important to you. And I was more so tied to the idea of the potential returns without considering, well, what did I actually need to achieve the things that were important to me? Do I need to be a property developer and make $100 million a year and do all of these crazy things to achieve my goals? No. Do I just need to continue to follow a path of accumulating assets that work without my attention? And
essentially passive assets
that work whilst I'm in bed, And when it comes down to it, it's about evaluating what's going to set you on the right path for what you want. Once again, it comes back to defining the goals. You have to define a destination. For far too many, they get caught up in the bright lights.
And it really infuriates me, that story, mate. It really does, because this is not the first story that either of us have heard about spruikers just robbing people. And they've done it in all sorts. So, when the stock market's doing well, there's spruikers that rob people in the stock market. When the property market's doing well, there's spruikers that come out that rob people in the property markets. And it's the people who can least afford it, who are the most desperate to get ahead, that are the ones being robbed here. And it's so unethical, mate. It
is, but it's always going to happen.
It's always going to happen, correct.
And this is the reason why we do what we do. And the whole idea for doing this podcast, for me writing my book, for us building the course, doing all of these things, is that the difference between somebody who has money and understands the ropes is that they are more able to sniff out rats than people who are naive and haven't had the experience. There was a saying that people who have the money end up with the experience, and people with the experience end up with the money.
It's true.
So, and more often than not, the experience is bad. It's people that they take a punt on something, they lose their money, and they have the war story to tell. Why all these people have supposedly got burnt through the GFC because of the share market. the share market hasn't done anything wrong to you. You just sold out at the bottom of the market and put all your money in cash.
If you would have done nothing,
you would have been fine.
Absolutely fine.
And it's one of these things, mate, that education is the gap for most of these people between where they are now and where they need to be. Because you're right, people need to take action, but it's taking the right action. And I think that people more often not try and do too much and don't let things run its course. They're expecting, I think Bill Gates once said, people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 10. And you always said, we've had a number of clients that we've spoken to as well. They come in and they say, I want to buy 4 properties this year. Go, whoa.
Slow down.
Calm your farm. Cool your jets. And then when we say to them, well, even if you bought 1 property every 5 years for the rest of your working life, you're going to be really well off.
You're a multi-millionaire. You're going to be absolutely fine.
Exactly right. And it's these people that just overdo it. They look at it as if it's a sprint, it's a marathon.
It's a 50-year marathon. Do you know what I mean? You can't sprint for 50 years. I tell you, you run out of breath.
Not even Usain Bolt can do that. He'll be done. So look, I think that the important thing for most people, and I guess the actionable steps off the back of this, stop dreaming and start being serious with your goals. If your goals are really important to you, do what it takes to define the motivating force behind it and what needs to happen to get you there with as much certainty as you possibly can.
Yeah, that's right. And you guys can jump on our LinkedIn, you can jump on our Facebook pages, get on the blog, have a read. It's going to give you guys a step-by-step of how you can articulate what your goals are and go about achieving them.
Yeah. So let's talk about our goals, Sammy. Let's be a bit vulnerable for a little while and put things out into the world. So, mate, we've obviously recently started in a new business venture, Aureus Financial, and this is going to be our first solid year in business in Aureus. So, mate, when we're sitting here in 12 months' time reflecting on how far we've come, what are the goals that you want to achieve?
Mate, that is an excellent question. There's so many. I think I want to grow our reach. I think I want to reach more people. A lot of what we do is educating people. As we said, that's sort of the first step between bridging, the dreams and the goals. And I think the more people that we can reach, the bigger effect that we can have essentially on society to help, improve financial literacy and, improve wealth education, actually help people understand, what are their financial and lifestyle goals, how do you tie it together, and how can they actually, start using money as a tool as what it really is, rather than looking at money and going, oh, this is so stressful, and seeing it as a negative thing, where it's not a positive thing, it's not a negative thing, it's just essentially pieces of paper or numbers on a screen. So you got to see it for what it is.
Exactly right. Look, I think I agree, mate. We need to impact as many people as we possibly can.
Yeah.
And I think that all of the work that we've done up until now is really about expanding that reach. And I guess in 12 months' time, looking back, I want to make sure that we impact at least 10,000 people over the next 12 months.
I think we can do it, mate.
I think we can do that. Whether it be through the book, through the course, through the podcast, through our online communities, or all of these things, our one-on-one clients. We need to be the catalyst for change. And I think that's really going to be able to set us up to be different than the rest.
I think it needs to be shaken up a little bit, mate. It needs to empty the barrel out, get rid of some of these crooks out of the industry.
Oh, mate, my old man always used to have a saying that I think his dad told him. He goes, sometimes through life you carry a backpack, and as you're walking along, you just throw stuff in the backpack. And sometimes you've just got to cut the bottom and let everything out and start again. And our industry is very much like that.
That's where it's at.
We need to cut the bottom and get rid of some wares, some treasures. The thing that annoys me the most about this industry is the so-called thought leaders that just really push their own agenda. And they're really not trying to create change.
Mate, well, a lot of these guys, they're not they pretend to be holistic, right? But they're really not.
They're pushing product.
They're pushing products. They've got one tool, they've got one skill, and they're coming across as someone who can teach you how to grow wealth, but they're only teaching you strategies or methods that involve the use of either their products or their skills. And I think we've sidestepped that completely. I think we're so holistic where it doesn't matter which strategy we use, we can help you with all of them.
Correct.
Do you know what I mean?
I think the biggest one, mate, is that making an impact on small business in Australia. For far too often and for far too long, we've seen small businesses have most of their wealth in their business. But their business is really their biggest asset or the biggest producer of cash flow in their life. And what I want to do is I want to be the catalyst for change when it comes to helping these business owners transfer wealth from their business to themselves as individuals and to their families, and help them create passive income that reduces their amount of time they need to spend in their business so they have more freedom of choice.
I agree with you, mate. So for everyone who's watching, essentially when you're in the growth stage, right, and you're working hard in your business and you're growing your business and it's producing cash flow, that's perfectly fine to go hard onto the business. Yeah. But the way life works is everyone's going to get old one day. People are not going to be able to work hard their entire lives, and people are going to live for very long. All right. So if you don't transfer wealth, you don't have to transfer wealth. If you don't use your business to generate passive wealth in property or in shares or things like that, then as you get older and you want to wind down more, you're going to find that you can't, because all your wealth and all your cash flow is tied up in this beast that you've created. Whereas if you move it into more passive assets, property is a great example. You get a rental manager in there, you get some tenants in there every month. The rent comes in, you pay the mortgage off, and then you've got a cash flow stream essentially that pays you forever. That's a pretty easy way of earning a quid every month. Exactly right. Compared to running a business.
Yeah, exactly. I think that business owners and most of the entrepreneurs that I speak to, they hate the idea of retirement. Retirement is a dirty word, and we've spoken about this a lot. That I know even for myself personally, I'll never stop working. I'll always be working on something, but I want to pursue my passions. I want to pursue the things that get me excited, and that are not always a constant change of time for money. I don't want to have to feel like I'm trapped in whatever business that I'm doing just because I need to put food on the table for my family. And for many business owners, they lose that spark of the thing that they were passionate about in their business because it is a constant pursuit of the next dollar. And it may be that we continue to work in this kind of thought leadership field of continuing to educate and help others. I know we've spoken about it before that we want to start the charitable foundation.
Yeah, we will.
Which we will. And the aim is to get that up and running over the next 12 months. And the aim for that is to try and really shift the way that people, particularly kids, are educated around finance from when they're in kindergarten all the way through to year 12. So they're given the tools they need to go out in the world and understand the language of money. But we understand that I guess we need to get our business to a certain point to have the freedom and flexibility to do that.
To do that, correct.
Like, for example, Richard Branson. It was funny that when I follow him on social media. And one of the recent things that he posted was him on his bike. And he goes on, my New Year's resolution for this year is to get as fit as I possibly can to get ready to go to space. Man's going to the moon. He's going to space. But he's been able to set himself up in his businesses. He's got hundreds of them, and live on an island in the Caribbean because he's done what it takes to have that freedom. There's only 2 tradable commodities in the world, and I use this all the time. And I try and say it as often as I can because I need to remind myself of it too. There's 2 tradable commodities. There's time and there's money. So we spend this time trading our time for money, but there needs to come a point where you spend your money to buy back your time.
Correct. Which is the whole point why you work hard.
Exactly right.
Do you know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with working hard, but there needs to be some sort of payoff eventually, because you invest a lot of time and a lot of energy to make money. There needs to come a point, and the only way to achieve this is to make good decisions with money. There has to come a point where you can use money to buy time and energy. That's a conversation for another day, because that one runs very deep, but it's the gist of it, I'm sure everyone understands.
So, mate, I guess outside of the business, I guess we've got a big vision of what we want to do and how we want to change Australia and ideally the world. What are your personal goals, mate? What do you want to achieve in the next 12 months?
Mate, this year there's two main things that are in my mind. Right, we've discussed the business. That's our little baby. We're going to work hard. We're going to work hard to get this business cranking. The other thing, and this is probably the biggest thing in my life at the moment. My wife's pregnant. You know, she's 4 months pregnant. So halfway through this year, she's going to give birth to a little baby girl. Essentially, my focus is going to be to position myself that I've got enough time to spend as much time as I like with my daughter and with my wife, especially as she's really young. I don't want to be one of these dads who's never with their kids or who works 100 hours a week and never sees them. So to do that, because I know the business needs the attention too, so to do that I need to be very efficient, and that was a lot of my goals this year, was how can I structure my life in a way where I've got the time to ensure the business grows up and to ensure I'm there to watch my daughter grow up as well. And there's a couple of practical, get up earlier in the morning, get up an extra half an hour earlier or an hour earlier, come 5 o'clock this morning, I was out punching a blog and putting emails together, and then I don't know. That's the two big things. That's the two big things for me.
Awesome.
How about yourself,
mate? I think the key thing for me is really around, I guess, even from the infancy of our business, getting to a point where I can derive personal benefit from the efforts that we're putting into this business. And I guess there's very few business owners out there that can say in the first 12 months of business that they can get to a point where they can derive a substantial amount of benefit. And I really want to challenge the status quo there. So I want to get myself on the right track to buy my dream home over the next 12 months. I've got 2 dream homes. I'm a simple man. So the aim, it's not an unattainable goal. But my aim is to buy a nice house in Beacon Hill, the top of the hill there, that looks over all of the beaches, which is one of my goals. Or the alternative is to look to buy my kind of dream home in Brazil, in the south of Brazil, in Florianopolis. So a bit cheaper there, you get a bit more bang for your buck. But I ideally want to get back to my goal that I set and the promise I made to myself a long time ago, where I only work 4 days a week and I take 2 months off a year. And my aim is to continue to extend the amount of time that I take off. And I'm always working, but my idea of a holiday is working from abroad or having a change of scenery. So
you do love working on an exotic beach, don't you?
Yeah, it's great. Okay, my dream is to be able to spend 2 to 4 months of the year in Brazil, in my beach home, and being able to take clients there, close family, close friends, do retreats, and spend time in that change of scenery to help people, I guess, stay aligned to their goals, deriving that gratification for their hard work and spending that time taking a step back and reflecting. So those are the key goals for me.
Excellent, mate. Do you what time frame do you have on those?
Look, I think that if we do everything that we're supposed to do in the business and we really pursue that vision, that will translate into us being successful. It's really, we're reaping the rewards from our hard work and the impact that we make on the world and then the people around us. And the bigger that impact, the more success that will mean for us. I think success is a lag indicator for the amount of change that we create in the world. So I think that's an important observation. So I think that by linking those things, the more effort that we put into the business and the more people that we can help, the more successful we'll be as entrepreneurs.
I think so, mate. I think the whole point of entrepreneurship and even capitalism to some degree, which some people don't like the word, is essentially the more value that you can add to society, the more you gain, more success you'll gain, and the better you'll do. And I agree with that. I think everyone who does really well has added an immense amount of value to society over time. I think that's what we're trying to do.
I agree, mate. I think that it's an important task. Someone's got to do it, mate. And I think that this industry has gone far too long without somebody really being a disruptor for the right reasons. And I think it's about pursuing society's agenda, and that need for that educator, and the need for that like a source of good quality wealth coaching and information, that's going to ultimately lead to the success of our business and all the people that we surround ourselves with. So it's going to be an exciting year, mate.
I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a busy year. It's going to be exciting. I think that's the perfect word to sum 2018 up for us,
mate. So big year ahead. And looking forward to what's to come, mate.
Excellent stuff.
All right. Well, until next time.
See you guys next time.
Catch you later.
Thank you.